Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to help you do some intermediate chess puzzles. So I've gone to chess.com and I'm going to choose a rating range of 1800 to 1900 and I'll do 4 or 5 and talk you through my thinking process. As usual, you can pause the video and try and solve them by yourself and then compare your thought process to mine. But let's get started. So first position, white to move. Always good to orientate yourself in the position, count the material. So we've got a queen, a rook, and two pieces against a queen, a rook, and two pieces. We're down 3 pawns. So we need to recuperate a lot of material or find checkmate. So checks in the position, the most forcing moves possible are checks, right? They force a response. So queen takes e6 is the obvious place to start. It's the only check. Okay, sorry. There's rook f8, but that doesn't lead anywhere at the moment. Loses a rook. So queen takes e6, forces king h8, right? Only move. And then in the new position, we have to then look for the new checks, right? There'll be different checks. So there's bishop takes g7, for example, rook f8 again, and also queen g8. Let's calculate bishop takes g7, which is the most forcing move because it forces king takes, which is the only move. So bishop takes, king takes. And then we've got some new checks, right? Queen f7, for example, or rook f7. I like the look of rook f7 because it keeps the queen here, which cuts off the 6th rank. So after king takes g7, rook f7 forces the king to g8 or h8. If it goes to g8, we probably win the queen, right, with a discovered check. So I think it has to go to h8. And then, don't see anything directly because we don't have access to this long diagonal with the queen because the queen covers f6, the bishop covers here. So let's calculate again from the start. Check, bishop check, king takes. This looks like the critical position. So maybe let's calculate queen f7 quickly. If the king goes back to h8, I don't see anything there. So I like the look of rook f7, but after king h8, I don't see anything. Interesting. Check here. Okay. So I'm looking in this position again, and there's no other good checks, I think, but there is a threat. So capture is okay. We checked bishop takes g7, which is a threat, check and capture. But there's this move queen f7, keeping the bishop pressuring g7, right? So the queen is threatening mate on g7. And we're also threatening mate on f8 because now the queen and the rook are lined up. So we're threatening to sacrifice the queen for checkmate on f8. So the question is, in that position, can black defend both threats? The back rank mate and mate on g7. And I don't think so. They've got no checks except for queen takes h3. So if they defend g7, we have the f8 mating idea. So I think that's the solution. I shouldn't think, I should know. Chess is a pretty black and white game, right? Game of logic. The better you get, the easier it is to see all the options for the opponent, because often there are resources, getting mixed up with the languages, that are difficult to spot, but I don't see any, so let's go ahead. It's a bit of a difficult move in some senses, right? But it does have 2 mate threats. So there's the 3 forcing moves, which are checks, captures, and threats. And this is the 3rd type of threat, but it's a big threat, right? Checkmate. So always That's the first threat to check. Okay, so they block the bishop, but they don't block this checkmate. Okay, I like that one. Number 3. Black to move in this position. Okay, interesting. All the pieces are still on the board, except for a pawn, or 2 for white. So 3 piece. Oh no, sorry, we're down a piece. Okay, it's important to always calculate material. So we're down a piece. We seem to have sacrificed it to open up the white king. So it's a question of making the sacrifice work, right? Otherwise we're just down a piece. So let's have a look. One very clear idea is to use the open G file. So often we sacrifice pieces to open up columns, not files. Or is it a file? Yeah, file or column. So for example, moving this knight to threaten rook g8 is an idea. Okay, I'm also looking at threats. So checks, there were no good checks in the position, only with the queen, and they're all sacrifices. So captures, not really. Knight takes pawn. Bishop, queen takes bishop. Don't look very promising. So threats, again, we can threaten checkmate with knight g4. Which threatens queen takes h2, checkmate. And if knight takes, actually whatever takes on g4, we recapture with the h pawn, which opens up the h file, which creates the battery with the queen and rook, which would threaten checkmate on h2 or h1, depending on what captures. Actually, let's calculate properly. If bishop takes, pawn takes, we're threatening mate on h2, taking the knight with checkmate, and there's no way for them to defend the knight except bishop f4, but we would just take it. They can move the rook to try and escape with the king, but we get the piece back, and it's probably enough, I'd say. We're up a pawn and the king's a lot weaker. Okay, so if knight takes, I don't think... Yeah, if knight takes, then we're threatening mate on h2 and the bishop. So we get the piece back in both cases. So bishop takes, pawn takes, rook e1, queen takes check, king f1. And probably even just trade queens. Queen h1. Oh no, sorry, the rook's here. Yeah, queen h1, king e2, queen f3 forces a queen trade. But that should be enough. So, I think, yeah, this is the solution. So now we take, they have to escape, create escape for the king. So we could take the bishop now or after queen h2. I like taking it now, right? Because that threatens checkmate. And looks unstoppable. It's probably the same, is it? No, because then the queen can take, right? So we need to take the bishop, maintaining the queen's protection of the pawn. Maybe I'll check quickly the other line. It's always nice to learn with the help of the engine quickly. If I was in a proper study session, I'd spend longer trying to work it out. So knight here, bishop takes, pawn takes, rook e1, mate in 7. Okay, with g3, nice. So yeah, taking on h2 is only the third best move. I didn't spot g3, which I should have. But I mean, we always want to take 3 pieces, right? So this is still completely winning. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the g3 idea from afar, but I'm still improving. So that was the 4th problem. So let's do one more. I think that was the 4th one. Hopefully. Okay, white to move, 4 pieces each. They've just captured a pawn, but the king looks a bit exposed. There's pressure on f7. So the only check in the position is bishop takes. King takes basically forced. And now we can check with the knight. We can also attack the knight, this knight. After the check, the king can try and hide. And I don't see much else because our pieces are still a bit far. Actually, there is bishop h6 in some lines. Okay, but the king can go to g8. So another option is to try and take advantage of this knight, which can't be defended. So bishop g5 comes to mind, attacking or pinning the knight, attacking it twice, and there's no way to defend it again because the king defends it. It's cutting off the queen's defense, right? So yeah, maybe this is a question of ruling out bishop takes f7, which looks enticing, but for example, bishop g5 in that position, the king's already defending the knight, so it's not so easy to pressure the knight further. Whereas bishop g5 directly threatens to win a piece. Counterattack, okay, I should have calculated more thoroughly. There's knight e5 attacking the queen. So one way to defend is to counterattack, right? Interesting. So if we were to take the knight with the queen, we're attacking the rook, so they have to recapture. And then when we recapture, we're up a piece. And even though we're losing a piece, the bishop, we're also attacking the rook and the knight. So bishop g5, knight e5, queen takes is important. Yeah, queen takes, queen takes, winning a piece. If they take the bishop, obviously we take the queen because our queen's protected by the bishop. That'll be checkmate. So they have to recapture, we recapture, being up a piece, and taking the rook and knight. Yeah, okay, a little bit tricky, but important to always find the best move, the best defensive move, to be accurate, maintain the accuracy. Okay, here up for a clean exchange or rook. No, we're up by, we got the piece back, 2 pieces. We're up a rook, yeah. Because we won a piece. We're up a piece here. They get the piece back and we get the rook, yeah. Okay, I'll do one more for good measure. I can't remember if I've done 4 or 5. Okay. White to move. 4 pieces each. A bit of pressure. This bishop's attacked. This bishop's pinned and attacked. Noticing this diagonal, so we've got a check on a4. So the question is when to give the check, basically, because we can capture. Okay, we don't want to capture here because then they recapture with check. So maybe we start with the check. I mean, you should always calculate first the checks. So if we start with the check, they have to block or move, obviously. If they move the king, then we just take the bishop. Wait, which bishop do we take? Okay, this is a bit more complicated than it seems at first. Because if check and let's say c6 no, because it blocks the queen's defense of the bishop. So check and king f1, king f8. We're attacking the bishop twice, but our bishop's also attacked. No, sorry, we just take with the bishop, yeah. For some reason, at first I was just looking at queen takes bishop. But we can start with bishop takes bishop, which just wins the piece, right? So I think here it's just the matter of making sure we don't take the wrong thing. If we take this bishop first, in every line they can just capture on d2 with check and get rid of this weak piece on b4. So it's important to start with the forcing move, and yeah, they can't do anything else. Queen here or here would just lose the bishop. Well, anything loses the bishop. Queen f8, king f8, you take the bishop. Sorry, with the bishop. Yeah, that's the key. Making sure they don't have any checks, counterattacks, but they can't take this bishop after we take on b4 because we're attacking the queen, right? So I have to move the queen, and we can probably take on a6, for example. Okay, check first. Rook with the queen. I should have calculated, but I figured that we could win a piece somehow by, for example, check, knight takes, and then we don't take on. Oh no, we do take on a6. Yeah, we take on a6, which is undefended. Yeah, just winning a piece. We don't take on b4 first, because then after knight takes, they defend a6 and threaten the fork and threaten the bishop. So yeah, making things a bit complicated with the calculation, but you just take and take on a6. Okay. I hope that video was useful. It's a bit late here, so I wasn't as sharp as I would normally be. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.